want to talk about superstition. They had to come from somewhere, somehow, and in some way. I mean, we've all experienced superstition, whether or not we believe them to be true. I'm sure there's been a time when you've come in contact with superstition, whether you see somebody picking up a four-leaf clover for good luck, or you're careful to make sure a black cat doesn't cross your path. I'm going to explain where some of these came from, like opening an umbrella inside, breaking a mirror, and the number 7. We've all been told not to open an umbrella inside, right? But where did this come from? What I found on Psych Library's website was the origins of this superstition in particular are disputed about. Some believe it can be traced back to ancient Egypt. And this was when they didn't use umbrellas to protect you from the rain, they actually used it to provide shade, and this was generally to nobility or religious leaders. And opening one inside was thought to anger the god of the sun. Others believe it can be traced back to 18th century London. And this was when metal spoke waterproof umbrellas were very popular. However, these umbrellas were very big and awkward to open, so opening one indoors could harm someone or something. Harming someone could anger family and friends, and that was thought to be bad luck and something to avoid. So in short, umbrella superstitions go back a really long time, and it's probably best to avoid doing what I just did. Now I'm going to focus on breaking a mirror. Forbes did a study to find out how superstitious people really are. Only 1% came back as very superstitious, but a more substantial 24% came back and said they were somewhat superstitious. And they asked specific questions about some superstitions, and they found out that 11% of people believe that breaking a mirror will actually bring you bad luck. So we're going to ask where this came from. This started back before metal and glass mirrors even existed. And before those existed, you could only see a reflection in rivers or ponds. Having a distorted image was thought that disaster would strike afterwards. Ancient Greeks would also fill shallow bowls with water and tell people's fortune. Your reflection was thought to represent your soul, so having a distorted image was a reflection on who you were. Another thing about this superstition is that in breaking a mirror, you have 7 years of bad luck. This started back when mirrors were first made with silver backing. They were extremely expensive, and only the very wealthy could afford them. The people who cleaned and moved the mirrors were maids and butlers, and they could not afford a replacement if they broke one. So, if they broke a mirror, they would have to serve the owner of the mirror for 7 years to repay their debt. And that's where we get the 7 years. Now I'm going to talk about the number 7 itself. Throughout history, the number 7 has been associated with good luck. Ancient Greeks and Pythagoreans believed it to be extremely lucky and to be the perfect number. In ancient Rome, Egypt, and Japan, they all had 7 gods. Hinduism believes in 7 major chakras. We can also find the number 7 in religions we're more familiar with. For example, the Old Testament. It took 7 years to build Solomon's temple. And according to the Bible, God created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th day he rested. In some cultures, though, the number 7 is not so lucky. In Chinese culture, they believe the number 7 to represent abandonment, anger, and death. They also believe it to be a ghostly number. So, the 7th month of the year is when they believe that ghosts and spirits leave hell and visit Earth. So in conclusion, I've talked about opening an umbrella inside, breaking a mirror, and the number 7. Whether or not you believe superstitions to be true, you now know a little bit more on where they come from, and they may not be as unlucky as they seem. So next time you break a mirror, chances are you're not going to have to be someone's slave for 7 years.